Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite City Podcast. A lot has happened yet again this week, and I'm here along with my co host, Mr. Rick. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? You're getting much better at the intro every week. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not improving at all. The same
No,
fool I've made every week, but nice
we're
job.
thank you. We're getting better at this. There's a lot less ums and ahs and wells and likes. we're,
Yeah,
we're, we're, we're getting better at this.
borderline professional.
Borderline professional. We'll take it. We will take it. Um, just as I say, there's no ums. I open with a big one. Another big week. Kind of looks like maybe AEW starting like chapter 2 of its existence.
Yeah, I'd say it's almost chapter 3
Chapter 3, you want to go? Okay.
because I feel like you had like the original AEW and then you had like the post CM Punk AEW,
True. And then this
and now this feels like another thing.
yeah, okay. I'll take
It's like
that.
a mix.
Chapter 3.
They've like mixed the two. There's a lot of the original AEW people, and it feels more like the old Dynamites a little bit to me. But then you have new guys on it who weren't there before, so I like how it's going.
Yes, yeah. Oh, me too. There's no complaints. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, had the biggest pay-per-view, and let's give much applause to AEW and their fans and our us fans. A lot of people bought Forbidden Door, even though the internet told us we weren't going to.
Yeah, I was actually not. I don't want to say surprised, but I mean it was a. I mean, I guess the people who buy a wrestling pay-per-view in 2022 when they cost $50, are more of the hardcore audience. It's not a casual purchase necessarily.
Yeah, especially with the way prices are. Like
Right.
$50 is a lot of money at any
Right.
time. But yeah, I agree.
But I was pleasantly surprised because I knew this was more of a niche pay-per-view than like All In or something like that.
Yes.
Or All Out, which is All Out. Sorry, All In is the other one. This is a more niche pay-per-view that I thought might be less successful, but it wasn't. I mean, it was on par with their other pay-per-views, so good for them.
Yeah, great. And it shows that their audience is growing, and we're just going to keep getting quality product. And that's
Yeah,
going to lead
and
us.
I mean, buys wise doesn't really matter as much as it like. I don't think there's anyone who watched that pay-per-view who'd be disappointed in it. I mean, we talked about it last week, but it was.
No, that was leading right off. Orange Cassidy and Ethan Page opened Dynamite this week. I'm really liking what they're doing with Ethan Page, and I mean Orange Cassidy's just great to begin with. So I thought it was a stellar match. Kudos to both those guys.
Yeah, I feel like Orange Cassidy's on his way back up the card. He kind of like, I mean, he was injured and then he kind of like was not doing much for a while. But now, plus the Will Ospreay match, I feel like he's going somewhere.
Yes, and we saw the return of Chuck Taylor and the Best Friends, which
that was great.
I thought that was cool, and we got a little insight into that. Well, I was reading on Twitter. Apparently, Chuck Taylor kind of cleared the air because everyone, like including us, thought he was injured.
Right.
He was not injured. They're just gonna not there. Trent is gonna split time between tagging with Rocky Romero whenever New Japan is in town, and when New Japan is not in town, he's gonna go back to Chuck Taylor.
Okay, so that makes sense, especially because Forbidden Door was on. That explains why he was. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, I thought.
Hopefully
that
really works out well for Chuck Taylor. He's happy with that.
He seemed super cool with it. He said he had the best seat in the house for all them shows, so he was probably sitting backstage.
And I think that's part of the reason why it feels a little bit more like original AEW. I mean, during the pandemic age, Best Friends were a pretty big part of that.
Oh yeah, they were major players in those Daily's Place shows for sure.
So it's not, I think that might be why it feels a little bit more like those older shows, because they were more heavily featured. I mean, the first half of Dynamite was a lot of, quote unquote AEW originals, which is nice to
Yeah,
see.
yes it
Apparently
was.
they've all been buried and forgotten according to the
Right,
internet, but
right,
but I
right,
but
right.
I guess that's not the case.
uh, Many kudos to Ethan Page. I felt he deserves more. I don't feel that he's misused, but I just want to see him wrestle more. And seeing him get to wrestle with Orange was awesome.
Yes,
Uh,
and I want to see
his
him in a some sort of storyline. All of his storylines have
yes,
been involving either America's Top Team or Scorpio Sky. I want him in his own storyline with somebody. That would be good.
I, I 100% agree with you. I would really like to see uh, him with anybody. Honestly, just see him in a program and week to week.
Right.
Uh, the, I'm personally Dan Lambert's slowly winning me over. I think the dude's hilarious. I know you're not supposed to like him, but he's too funny.
My literal
This
only issue with Dan Lambert, two things. One, he gets cheered sometimes when he's not supposed to get cheered. You can tell he's supposed to
yeah,
be a heel, but it's not always working.
correct.
And I mentioned before, Ethan Page does not need a manager. That's my only
I
issue. Dan Lambert could be with someone who can't talk, and it would, because Ethan Page can cut his own promos.
yes, totally agree with you.
But yeah, he was
Um,
funny. He did a good job.
his self awareness is so great, and that's what I think's funny about it. Like him knowing that he's just an old school wrestling fan that hates the new product, and then you put that into a character and turn it up to 50. It's just great. It's
Yeah, and
hilarious.
he did a great job, like just being a jerk to Orange. Like Orange Cassidy is
Oh
like
yeah,
his perfect foil because he's everything that Dan Lambert would
right.
hate in a wrestler. It's good.
Yeah. On that note, Orange Cassidy picked up the win. It's well, you couldn't have Orange Cassidy lose twice,
Right.
but like it's I'm kind of like in the gray area there. I really wanted that would have been a big win for Ethan, but at least he was on the card and wrestling. So
Right.
now moving right along, we're gonna let you take the reins on this because Shivani had one of the best interviews with Christian, and uh, Christian, what number one heel in the industry right now?
Yeah,
After
and
that promo,
it didn't take long, and I mean I mentioned last week I've loved Christian for 20 years or however. That sounds ridiculous, but I think it's true. Um,
right?
but he's done better with this heel role than I thought he would. And I like him. I think he's great, but like he's done even better than I expected him to do.
Oh yeah. I wrote in the notes. I mean, it took 2 weeks, and he took MJF's place. Like, I hate to say that, but MJF was the biggest heel in the company, and it's now Christian in a matter of about 8 minutes of TV time.
What I like about Christian's heel turn is, I mean, he's offensive in the same kind of way that MJF was offensive. When MJF would make fun of like Brian Pillman's family or something, like
Right.
it's a similar sort of heat.
Right.
But the way Christian does it, it seems like it's more related to the storyline.
Yes, it was like all part of the plan.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And the line of like, I'm sorry that I said that your dad is dead. What I really meant was I wish your whole family was dead.
Oh, it was so good. uh,
Except for your mom, and then he motions to call
yeah,
me.
call me. Oh, that was
Yeah,
so great.
so good.
Uh, and that went right into the squash of all squash matches, poor Serpentico, but heel Luchasaurus and versus Serpentico, and that's the first time we saw heel Luchasaurus with the new look, and uh, I think it rules. I love it.
Yeah, I was wondering where they would go with him because he seems like kind of a face character. I mean, he's a luchador dinosaur, so it seems kind of like a face
Correct.
character. But they've done. I mean, just in 1 week, his heel character is really cool.
Oh, it's super cool. I really like what they did with it, and he can. But what did? Oh, I'm trying to think. Someone compared him to somebody on the internet.
I've heard a lot of
Uh,
Kane, like original Kane comparisons.
that's what it was. That's what it was. Just a big silent
Yeah,
brute.
yeah, guy in a
And
mask who just like comes out and destroys people.
yeah, that's perfect. I thought it was really good. We don't need to talk about that long. I mean, like
I
I
think
said,
we've
they're
talked about it
supposed to
longer
go.
than the match. I think this talk
Right.
has been longer than the match. But yeah, it was
Uh,
great.
Super great. Scorpio Sky and Wardlow promo. A lot of promos. AEW is doing this. I like it. They're not. Uh, they're little setups for the future. Like they're not like, oh, I'm gonna yell at you now and then we're gonna go fight. Like,
Right.
the Scorpio Sky and Wardlow were setting up next week. I thought it was done really well.
And I like even the brief little disclaimer that Tony Schiavone always does, like you have both agreed to no physicality, and just to explain
Yes,
why they're not like immediately fighting each other. It's good.
yes, it's very good. Now I have a little theory on this. They make it a street fight. Uh, American Top Team interferes. That's how Wardlow loses, but it doesn't make him look weak. Like it will take, oh, it took 3 UFC guys
Right.
and Scorpio Sky to beat him. That's
Yeah, I
my
feel like that
theory.
makes a lot of sense because it does feel a little too soon for Scorpio's guy to lose the title.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the fact that it's a street fight. Yeah, that makes sense that they could have all kinds of shenanigans there. And Wardlow could look really tough, like beating up 4 guys before like the fifth guy
Right.
takes. Like yeah,
Yeah. And
I mean he
that's
did
just
just
what
beat 20 security guards, so
that is true.
it's
That
gonna
is
take a
true.
little bit.
uh, Wardlow is just on a path right now, and I, I, I bet you within 1 year he gets a belt. Like he's on pace for a belt. That's all I'm gonna say. Like I
I
don't know
think he
what's
takes
wrong
the
with him.
TNT title like in a couple months.
Couple
I don't think
months.
I don't think
Okay.
it'll be right now. I think he'll Scorpio Sky will beat him, and then they'll duck him for a while, and they'll do. But I think he'll take it sooner rather than later.
Okay. Maybe at the um uh what's uh what's September's pay-per-view?
Yeah,
There's
maybe at
there's a
that All Out, or they could do it
yeah,
at
all out.
the Grand Slam show.
Or Grand Slam. Yeah, there's definitely options. But okay, I'm gonna
Grand
write
Slam,
that
him
down.
beating Grand Slam would remind me of Goldberg beating Hogan in the Georgia Dome, which reminded me of Warrior beating Hogan in Skydome.
Oh,
Just
that
be
would
like a
be
a big guy finally overcoming the other guy, and it's in front of a huge crowd, and I think it could be a big thing. I don't know if it'll happen, but I think it'd be cool.
that'd be super cool. I'm on board. I'm on board. Uh Platinum Max and the Ass Boys versus Danhausen and his mystery partners, which I thought I, have an FTR tag with him for FTR Hausen. Amazing. It was so fun. It proves that those guys have a sense of humor and it's not all quote unquote business all the time in the
They're
ring.
not just professional wrestlers.
They're not just professional wrestlers. They got the
It's kind of
win.
it kind of seems like they can do anything. Like they can be funny, they can do comedy, they can be heels, they can be faces. Like
Yeah,
they're on an incredible run.
they are. I said last week, is anybody on a better run than the Bucks? And you're like, well, maybe FTR. And I think you're
Yeah,
right. Definitely think you're right. We saw Bowens come back. Um, I was really surprised at that. They really played that well. Like I thought his injury was definitely way more serious than it was. I mean, he
right.
was
I don't
really
know what his
only
impact was, but because he was in a wheelchair every week, I assumed it was severe.
yeah, same here. Like I don't know if I read something or maybe he mentioned it somewhere, but I thought it was his knee. So, I figured, oh, it's not it's gonna be 3 weeks.
Right.
uh, but then there was some little dissension between the acclaimed and the ass boys and Billy Gunn. He made the choice of a lifetime. I mean, everybody does love the acclaimed, and apparently so does Billy Gunn over his own kids
Yeah,
because he pushed he pushed Austin. Yeah, he
yeah. I
pushed
think he pushed
Austin,
Austin. Yeah,
and
that was funny.
that was very funny. I think I even texted you. I hope he turns on his sons, and
I'm
then
only
2 minutes
I
later he did.
I thought that was great. I'm only slightly sad because I love this teaming of the
Oh yeah.
acclaimed in the. I think it's hilarious,
Oh, it's
and
so hilarious.
I kind of don't want them to break up because they're funny. But if Billy's gonna go with the acclaimed and they can still do like the scissor me daddy ass thing, then I'm fine with it.
Oh yeah.
because that's so dumb, but I laugh every single. It's so dumb,
Every time I laugh.
but every single time I laugh, even though I know it's coming and it's really stupid, but I laugh every single time.
I was listening to Sean Ross Sapp after Dynamite, and someone was saying like, "Oh, that was stupid that Billy chose the Acclaimed over his own sons." Blah 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 blah. And Sean Ross Sapp brought up a very good point. He said that like if it wasn't for Danhausen, like they wouldn't even be on TV. So
Right.
they owe Danhausen making a Twitter joke at that.
Right.
Like he wasn't even signed with AEW and started calling them the ass boys.
And
And
he's kind of been fed up at his sons for a while, so it makes sense. I mean, he's
yeah,
kind of been annoyed at them for a while, so it fits.
and of course, like every parent gets annoyed by their kids,
Right.
especially at the ages that in their 20s, that would
Right.
probably be hell. Um, but I thought it was a solid match. It served its purpose for what it was. It got Bowens back, and it got a little dissension between the Acclaimed and the Ass Boys. But the next segment was very interesting to me, and I want your opinion on it. 2 weeks in a row, we have Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt cut a promo challenging Samoa Joe, and Joe still hasn't responded, and it's bothering me.
Yeah, it's a little surprising.
Yeah, like it's it's I'm
I'm not
fumbling
sure
over
what
words here.
maybe they're going with, like, they keep mentioning him, and then when he finally does show up, it's going to be a big deal. I guess that's what they're
Yeah,
going for. But it's a little. I guess they're also trying to stretch it out until the ROH pay per view.
right. I totally get that, but I need some banner from Joe. Joe's too good of a
Odd that he
talker.
hasn't responded. Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously there's a reason for it, but I just hope it keeps going on. I hope they give him a segment every week.
And Satnam Singh
And
is, like, pretty decent in these.
I was very surprised.
Like, he's better than I thought he would be. He's
Yeah.
he's not like The Rock in promos, but, like, he's good. He's good, decent enough.
Well, like we said when he had his first match, when you see a guy that big, the first unfortunate person you think of is Giant Gonzalez.
Right.
And you're like,
He doesn't seem to be Giant Gonzalez or even the Great Khali. He seems to be a step ahead of them. So
yeah. And a little off track, funny story here. My buddy Jeff, his ex-wife is really close with Natalie Slater, who is best friends with CM Punk. Like she was in the Punk DVD, and
okay.
like yeah, they grew up together. And we were watching a pay-per-view at his house. I don't know, maybe like 10 or so years ago. And Natalie is also a like very good baker, and she would always make cupcakes for the wrestlers when they were in Chicago. So they were there, and there was a picture of her, and the Great Khali had like 5 of the cupcakes in his hand, and they looked like little baby ones. And they were like real, like normal size cupcakes,
Right.
and he had this smile on his face, and she was like, she just responded with, "He's eaten like 20." And we were all cracking up because the Khali loved cupcakes.
From what I can tell, he's like a really good guy. From everything I've
Oh
heard
yeah,
about him,
he's
not a great wrestler, but like from what I can tell, he's a good guy. That's when I know when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and people are like, "What's going on? Why is he in the Hall of Fame?" And everyone's like, "Well, he's just likable. Like everyone likes him."
yeah, and I mean, he did his job there. No matter what they had
Right.
him do, the guy did it.
Right.
And moving right along, which I this match surprised me, but then it turned it around. We had Jade Cargill versus Layla Gray. Uh, Jade is getting better by the minute, and she's putting the whole women's division on warning here.
Yeah, she's
Because
getting to the point where she feels like she's like a level above everyone now. She's obviously
yes,
not the greatest wrestler in the division. Everyone knows that,
right,
but she's more than average at wrestling. And just her
yes,
whole thing, her whole presence, like she looks like a superstar when she comes out. Like her whole matches are big deal, even when it's facing someone who no one really knows who they are. Like it's still a big deal.
A very big deal. And even though she's a heel, the crowd is behind her.
Right.
And up to 34-0. Just want your opinion. How far along do they let this go?
I don't know. I mean, because it seems like Athena or Chris Statlander's one of them's gonna beat her.
I agree.
Feels like that's gonna happen. But I don't know if they're gonna beat her anytime soon, or if they're gonna do like a series of tag matches and 3-way matches and things like that to get her to 40. Maybe they'll go to 40. Just because it sounds good.
And then yeah.
I don't know. Or should they? Are they gonna try to get to 50? I have no idea.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. When you're at that, it's like, well, we gave her 40. 50 is only 10 more away. Oh, well,
Right.
then we're at 60. Well, oh, like it's a
Right.
very it's interesting the way they're doing it though. And when they first started to mention the streak, I was like, that's gonna be dumb, but I'm all about it.
Yeah.
um, Basic squash match. I felt bad for Layla Gray because she's a very good wrestler. But this is where it got turned around. Stokely comes. Well, he was already down there. Sorry. Stokely gets in the ring with the mic, and he calls Athena and Chris Statlander lazy because Jade issued an open challenge, and a person that doesn't even work for the company, quote unquote, um, answered the challenge. So
I
of
also like that they
course,
explained that, but why she was in the match. Like I like that.
yeah,
It's
thought
a
that
little
was
thing,
super
but it
cool.
matters.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely matters. Um, so of course, Athena and Chris come running down, and just as Layla Gray is walking up the ramp, a little bit off camera, you see, but Stokely kind of whispers in her ear, and she turns around, jumps in, and starts fighting for Jade. So Jade didn't seem all about it at first, but do you think she's a new baddie or a temporary baddie to take over for
Red
Stirred
Velvet.
Up Girl, Red Velvet?
Stirred up girl, yeah. I wonder if they're gonna do like Stokely wants her to be the new baddie, but Jade's not into it, and maybe they'll like make her have to prove herself, or I don't know.
kind of, kind of like Wheeler Yuta and the
Yeah, it is a
Blackpool
storyline
Combat.
they've already done recently, but they could do it again.
But it makes sense. I mean,
Right,
like, not to be a downer here, but I mean, gangs have initiations, and
right,
basically that's what stables are in wrestling.
right.
So, uh, now now we have something here solid to talk about for the next 20 minutes. We had the main event, which was Blood and Guts.
Yeah, I just want to say I really like. It feels like they did this on purpose. The first half of Dynamite was like much lighter than Dynamite usually is.
Yes.
Like it had Danhausen on it and the Ass Boys, and it had Orange Cassidy, and like it was like, I mean, there was still some serious stuff, but it seemed like it was very light. And I wonder if they did that on purpose to like contrast that with Blood and Guts, which was like the opposite of light and fun and happy.
I think you're 100% right. Uh, Before we get into this, super kudos to the production team for keeping that crash pad and that table out of the shot the entire night
Yeah,
until Sammy went through that table.
and even the second ring, they did a good job. Like in the other matches, I mean, you knew the other ring was there, but they didn't really like they shot it from a way that you could forget that there was a second ring.
Yeah. And that was a neat little angle. I like that.
Yeah,
Like it was different because the camera had to be placed to A, not see the crash pad where Sammy was going to fall,
right.
and B, like you said, to keep the other ring out of it. I thought it was done really
The
well.
production on this one, I know the last time they were in Daly's place for the first one.
Yes,
And I
yes,
feel like the production on this, even that the flow of the match and how they, I mean, these guys are clearly more experienced than the people who were in the first one for the
right.
most part, and it was the first time they did the match. But the overall like production of the match, the timing, the way they did it, like it felt a lot better. Like it was better. The match itself was better, but just the
Yeah,
whole everything around it was better.
and like you said, like everybody understood it, including the fans. Like we already saw it once, so like the
Right.
guys got it. They were able to plan it out a little better. Now, unfortunately, it really looks like uh, Santana was very injured.
Yeah,
I
that
haven't
looked
heard
bad.
anything. I
It
mean,
looked bad only because like he did absolutely nothing after he got hurt. Like I think he threw like one little punch on the ground, and like he wasn't even like trying to be involved in the
and
match. Like it was like so serious that they just kind of forgot about him.
that's where I'm gonna, you know, talk on AEW for a second. They needed to get the doctor in there. Like, I don't care if that guy, aka Santana, I don't care if he was saying no, 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 no. Like, I mean, I don't know if he had a broken leg, blown out knee, what, but like, if he had a broken leg, like, he laid there for what, 30 minutes? Like,
Yeah,
you could really get hurt,
yeah.
or like,
Or if you
you
like
know,
if he tried to stand and hurt, yeah,
yeah, like, no, open the thing, get Doc Samson in there, get him
yeah.
at least to the floor.
At least out of the ring, yeah.
Yeah, like the poor guy laid there for a majority of the match.
I don't know if anyone was talking to him while he was there, like if he had a doctor like on the outside of the cage, but
I
yeah, they
I
should have
kept
had
trying
someone
to
come in.
yeah, I kept trying to pay attention and look. I even watched the match a second time. Right after it happens, Claudio and Eddie run to the cage, or not
Right,
Claudio. Mox and Eddie run to the cage, and obviously he was like, "Hey, I'm hurt,"
right.
but then he just rolled out of the ring and
Yeah.
rolled to the cage. Like, I felt so bad for the guy.
And I mean, they could have done it. I mean, it would have played up the match more. I mean, he could have got hurt and they had to carry him out. And then it could have been, this is so dangerous. This guy got injured. He had to be removed
Yeah.
from the match. And now they're down a man. What does that mean? Like, it could have been a
Yes.
whole, they could have played
Yeah.
it, they could have played it into a story
I agreed.
because it was obvious he was hurt. I mean, he did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, he came in, he threw a couple punches, and then he either hurt his leg or his knee when he did that backbreaker. I mean,
Yeah.
it just, and I haven't heard anything, so it
No,
must not be good.
no.
um, Again, going back to the production, the One Ring, which would have been on the Jericho Appreciation Society side, was full of glass,
Yeah.
thumbtacks, tables, and the other ring. 1 second it was a ring, and the next second it cuts back and there's no canvas,
Yeah.
mat.
They
It's
did.
just
They didn't even really show it. They just kind of showed like, yeah, now it's ripped apart.
yeah. Uh, and I again, just my observation when I watched the match through the second time, I think there were a lot more plans for the ring with no mat or canvas that probably involved Santana and
Right.
Ortiz, because they kind of just took that apart and nothing really happened with it.
Right. Or they had to do something, but they couldn't because, Santana was late. He was on the side of that ring. Like maybe they'd
Oh,
planned
that's
to
true. Like, totally take the
like
canvas
take the
all the
whole ring
way
apart
off.
or something, but he was
Yeah.
there, so they couldn't. Yeah.
Uh, but with what was who was it? It wasn't Angelo Parker. 1 second he was in the ring, and then the next second he was hanging out.
Yeah.
Like, I missed what happened.
I don't know how he got out of the cage. I don't think anyone knows how he got out of the cage. He
Yeah,
must have he must have crawled through like the steel support thing in the
he
middle there.
he had to, but I
But I don't know.
don't.
I don't know how he got out there. Yeah, that was odd.
Yeah,
He's just hanging upside down.
yeah, for no reason. It's just like, that's the thing with these matches. Like, obviously you're gonna miss things,
Right.
but like something like that, it's just funny to the like to a fan like us. Like, we're gonna make jokes about it because if unless you're there, you didn't see it. Like, the camera's over here, then it cuts back, and it's just a
And they
dude
didn't like
hanging
have
out
a
upside
replay of it
down.
or anything. They just like,
No,
oh, he's outside the
nope.
cage now.
Yeah. And that got, as soon as everybody got outside, uh, that led to, of course, people climbing the cage,
Of
which,
course.
of course,
I also just want to say I really like how I think it was Mox's job to like blade everyone
yeah,
because he did it to everyone. Like I think especially like in 2.0 and Danny Garcia, like they probably have less experience with that sort of thing. So I feel like his whole job was like just go around and like blade everyone, just because they could trust him to do it.
yeah.
Because he went over, he's like, I'm gonna hit him with a fork in the face, and then I'm gonna hit him with like some sticks or whatever they were. And, like,
those did not go over well. Did you ever see anybody use those before?
No.
I that's an old CZW thing. Me
Okay.
and my buddy, they're actual like um skewers for like kebabs.
Right.
And what the guys would do is like Mox did, grab like a handful of them and then just pop them into like the person's forehead.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10 they would stick. But
Right.
when Mox did it, they broke.
Yeah.
So I think it was in Garcia's head. Garcia had to have splinters in his head
Yeah.
because that meant every one of those tips broke off and
Right.
didn't stick. Uh, but going up, Sammy goes up, and of course Eddie follows him. And it wasn't a minute later, Eddie tosses him off and then laughs while he's in the air.
Yeah, the
It
laughing was so
was
good.
it was so good because that's Eddie Kingston in a nutshell. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't care. It was
I want to say what freaked me out the most on top of the cage was the giant swing.
oh that
That was
was
on that was on Jericho, right?
yeah, yeah,
I was
Claudio and
terrified.
Jericho.
Like I was
I
legitimately terrified.
I won't lie, like I had to like kind of slightly look away
I'm
because
like
I knew
he could get dizzy. He could let him go. Like he could slip. Like it's entirely possible.
yeah, like you're full of baby oil and sweat. Like,
Right. And yeah, and it's
it,
like 45 minutes into a match. Like Claudio was there since the beginning.
yes.
Like
Uh, but
that was
hey,
scary.
it was very scary. Uh, that led to, I mean, just pandemonium. Like, it, there were still some of the other guys just laying in the ring as the guys on top were going at it. And I was like, oh, okay, like obviously those guys are resting. They're like more people are going to come up, but no, only Jericho, Matt Menard, Claudio, and Eddie Kingston were the only ones that made it top. The other guys just kind of laid low after Sammy went off the top.
You could
Uh,
tell that even at the end when the match was over, that Mox didn't want to be up there.
yeah,
Just the way he went up, he climbed up like really slow and then kind of stood there like, all right, I know like this is our thing. I'm supposed to stand here at the end, but he didn't really move. He just kind of stood there in one spot, like, okay, yay.
that thing is high.
Yeah.
So I like I'm not a I'm not scared of heights per se, but I wouldn't want to wrestle on top of that
No, of course not. I mean, it seemed
thing.
like they reinforced it more than like the old. I don't know what the modern Hell in a Cell looks like, but like the old, like
Oh yeah,
Mankind
like
Hell in a Cell, like
yeah, where
that was barely a cage.
yeah,
Like
it was
that was
held together with zip ties and
it was just like a little bit of chain link. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
at
This
least
actually had
this one looks like it
yeah,
had some like steel reinforcements. Like it was designed to have people on top of it.
yes, and uh Claudio keeps using the sharpshooter. That's two matches in a row. I hope that's his finisher.
Yeah,
I
I like it. I mean, he started doing it because he was Tyson Kidd's partner in
oh, so he was
WWE.
doing it in I didn't realize he did it in
Yeah,
WWE.
he did.
That's
He
awesome.
didn't do it as regularly. It was like an occasional thing.
Oh,
But
okay.
it was Tyson Kidd's finisher, and then Tyson Kidd like broke his neck or something, and couldn't. He's retired now. Um,
Oh, that's right.
so he started doing it occasionally as like a tribute,
Okay.
but he didn't do it as regularly as he did. Like it wasn't his finisher; it was an
Okay.
occasional thing.
Well, at least somebody in AEW can finally apply one.
Right.
That they went through a couple
Yeah. What
weeks
was the
where it was
night? Was it? What is it? Was it a pay per view when everyone was doing sharpshooters? And they were all really bad.
it was double or nothing, wasn't
I think so.
it? But
And
yeah,
there was just like
everyone was terrible.
three or four terrible sharpshooters. I remember texting you being like, they need Bret Hart to like just come
Yeah,
here and
yeah,
explain to
just
people how to do this move.
yes, yeah, just like an hour of
Yeah.
Bret Hart's time. Like, uh, I mean, as you said earlier, I thought this match was total insanity on the best level possible. I
Yeah.
thought it was done really well. Thought it was planned out really well too.
Yeah. Especially
Uh,
even with the Santana injury, which obviously affected things,
yes,
it still
yeah,
seemed good. It still seemed like it wasn't just, I mean, there was a lot of insane spots and crazy violence, but there was also like there was a story going through it. There was a narrative. It was good.
yeah. Now, do you think this? Just your opinion. do you think Blood and Guts will always follow Forbidden Door? Like, do you think it will be their uh
Yeah, I
like
don't love the
like
placing of it.
reset?
I don't love the
Oh,
placing
okay.
of it because it seems a little too close to Forbidden Door. Like it was hard. Like they seemed like they were kind of hyping up Forbidden Door and Blood and Guts at the same time at some points.
Ah, that's
But
true.
it does make sense if you think it's going to be like a reset. Like this ends a bunch of stories and then they
Yeah,
move on to All Out. Like it makes sense.
and again, one of these weeks we're gonna have news on this. But again, once Ring of Honor has television,
Right.
like Blood and Guts doesn't necessarily have to be an AEW thing.
Right.
You know, they could have Blood and Guts in Ring of Honor. They could have AEW versus Ring of Honor.
Right.
Like there's a lot they could do with it. So, but
And I
go ahead,
really like
Logan.
that. I really like the ending of this match. Just when it first happened, I was totally into the match. Like not as a
Yes.
nerd analyzing wrestling type match, but like I was just like watching it because it was enjoyable. And my first thought was like, oh man, Eddie didn't win. And my
Yeah.
first thought, I was just like, I was upset that like I wanted to see Eddie like destroy Jericho. Like that's what everybody wanted. And I was a little like my initial response to the match was, oh, Eddie should have won that. That's too bad. But then
Right.
I realized like, no, that's good. That's what they're going for.
Yes. Yeah.
They wanted everybody watching that to be like, they want you to all feel for Eddie Kingston that he didn't get. And Eddie Kingston was trying. I mean,
Yeah.
the storyline, the way it worked, where like him and Claudio had a problem with one another, but then when Eddie was out on top of the cage by himself, Claudio came up and saved him.
Yes.
So that got him in Eddie Kingston good books. But then he won the match, and Eddie was kind of happy to win the match, but kind of not, and it was good. I mean, it's a level that you don't usually see from like pro wrestling.
I agree. I thought they handled that really well, and it's planted the seeds. Like it's gonna happen. You're gonna get Claudio versus Eddie
Yeah, I
eventually.
wonder if you get Claudio versus Eddie first, or if Eddie has to have another match with Jericho where he just ruins him.
You think?
I think so. I
Because
think he has
Jericho's
to have.
0-2 now. I
I
mean,
think he has to have like a one-on-one match where like Eddie just destroys him because that's what everybody wants to see.
oh, that would make sense. Maybe Jericho, like right before Fozzy goes out on a tour or
Yeah, maybe
something, where he
he'll
needs to be
mock
gone for a few months.
he'll mock him, being like, "Oh, you still did. Yeah, you want your team win the match, but you couldn't beat. I couldn't. I didn't submit. You didn't beat me." And then it'll
Right.
be a one more thing because I feel like that's in Eddie's whole "I want to taste your blood" thing. Like he didn't really get to
Yeah.
do that. I think I mean, they could just move
Yeah.
on and go into a Claudio Eddie thing, and that's fine, and it'll be a good story. But I kind of want to see him just like set Jericho. I thought he was going to set Jericho on fire.
I agree. I thought when they were passing around the rubbing alcohol at the beginning,
Yeah.
I really thought someone was getting lit up.
That's a really weird thing to say, but I wanted like he should set him on fire. Like he really wants to, and I want him to achieve that for himself.
He's a fellow Canadian. You can't say that's illegal.
No, when he
uh,
was a heel, at least in WWE, when he was a no opposite, sorry, when he was a heel, he would be introduced as being from Winnipeg. When he was a face, he said he was from New York.
oh, that's funny.
So maybe it's opposite in Canada. Like if he's going to be a heel in Canada, he's going to say he's from New York.
Oh, that would make sense.
And I think technically he was born in New York.
Yeah, because his dad was a ranger, correct?
Yeah, his dad is Canadian from Winnipeg, but he was born in New York, but then like grew up in Winnipeg.
Gotcha. Wonder if he ever played hockey. He had to play hockey. I
I'm
mean,
sure he
his
did. He
dad.
grew up in Winnipeg. What else are you going to do?
Well, and his dad was an NHL player, so
Right.
yeah,
I feel like if you're in Winnipeg and your dad's in the NHL, like they just put skates on you. They just tell you
probably.
you have no choice.
Wait, aren't all Canadians born with skates on anyway?
Yeah, it's like by law. If you don't know how to skate, you're sent away.
Yeah, they send you to America.
Yeah.
That's,
they make
we,
they make you live in Florida or something. I'm like,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. You come and you run and play hockey here. uh, all in all, I thought it was a great show. I thought it
Yeah.
was a great match, great Dynamite, and there was a lot of setup for this week for Dynamite,
Yeah. And this
which we're
this
going to
week
get to in a
sounds
minute.
insane. which we'll
like
probably talk about at the end. But like title matches
yeah,
all over the place.
yeah. Well, going right after Blood and Guts, they taped Rampage, which I, I like that Rampage is taped, but speaking firsthand from going to Dynamite a couple months back, it is a marathon.
Yeah. Do they do like dark and elevation then too, or is that not then?
Well, they do. You get a full dark, so that can range from they just decide how many matches they're doing. So when I was there, I think dark was like 45, 50 minutes.
Right.
And then you have a 2 hour uh, live Dynamite. And then Rampage is over an hour, but they edit it down. Like there
Right.
were things that I saw that you didn't see because they'll cut out to go to commercial, and like they don't cut out major things obviously, but
Yeah, but you
like
could
the
tell they cut
matches
down
are
matches. You
longer.
could tell they cut
Yeah,
down matches
yeah.
sometimes because they don't do the picture in picture. And
Yes.
whenever it's the middle of a match and they don't do picture in picture, I assume it's an edit.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I got the doors open at 6. I was in the arena at 6. I was quarter to 12 when
Yeah.
I was walking to my car.
Yeah, that's a long show.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely worth the money because it's cheaper than going to Raw. Like
Right.
Raw is like double the price, and you only get Raw. Well, you get a couple
Right.
dark matches, but I like I wish they would either make Rampage live and then give those people like a special just dark matches,
Right.
like because you can't have people in an arena for an hour.
Right.
That's my
They're not gonna
thing.
all go there for a 1 hour show. Yeah.
Because what I'm going to talk about, or what we'll talk about at the end, unfortunately, by the time that main event rolled around, if you looked at the crowd, there was about half of them were gone.
Yeah, and I
Like
think
people.
especially when it's a big match like Blood and Guts,
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's something. I mean, that's what you're there for, right? So like, it's
right.
you might like I could see some people leaving after that. Like that's the match you came to see, and it was good, and you're tired, and it's already like 10:30 or whatever, so you're gonna
Yeah,
go home.
yeah, and I I know they can't do it, so they either have to make Rampage 2 hours and do 2 live shows. I understand that's expensive, and but like it's just it's too much for the people uh,
Yeah,
being
the crowd
there.
I can see getting worn out by that.
Oh, I couldn't move by the time I had no voice. I had like my arms hurt from cheering and yelling. It's a marathon.
Unless they
But
cut Rampage, like the cut the wrestling time, because Rampage seems to always just be like match, 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 like one right after another.
yeah,
If they could cut the wrestling time down now, do two longer matches or 3 matches and fill the rest with segments that you don't have to do in the arena.
now that would work. Yeah, like do like pre-tapes for
Yeah,
TV and then just have like yeah, yeah, that would be perfect. Have like 2 20-minute matches
right.
and then
And then show something like the kind of stuff that they show on like the Road to shows.
that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Oh man,
I,
speaking
I
of that,
just
Road
I,
2 is
I
going to be
I
awesome
just
this
I
week.
just keep pushing for the Road to shows to be on TV because they're so good. So
I
anytime I
know.
have an opportunity to talk about them, I'm like, they should air this stuff on television.
They
But
should.
but I'm going off topic now.
Yeah. Hey, it's all right. We had the Royal Rampage, uh, which I thought was a very cool concept. It was 2 rings, 10 guys in each ring that they came down in. Was it 2 minute or 1 minute intervals? I wrote
It
down 2 minutes, but I
I
couldn't
it
remember.
seemed like it was 1 minute because it seemed faster than
Okay.
2 minutes, but I don't remember.
Okay. Well, I couldn't either, so I said two. And each ring was like color coded, as in you were either in the red ring or the blue ring, but they weren't different colors.
Right.
So it's uh and then uh you weren't allowed to go into the other ring. Like you couldn't be thrown over the top rope and land in the other ring and still be in it, if that makes sense.
I wonder what would have happened if someone did that.
I know.
I mean,
Uh
obviously they didn't because that's not what they wanted them to do. But like, why wouldn't anyone throw someone in the other ring?
What was funny, I was on Twitter after the show, and someone brought up the point after um, Brody King threw Darby from one ring through the middle rope into the other one. If Brody was just a little bit taller and he was the guy that stepped over the top rope,
Right?
like, what if he
Yeah,
would have, like, yeah, would he have eliminated
would
himself?
that be the end of it? That's true. I don't know.
And yeah, like, what would have happened? I mean,
They
he
never
didn't
really
actually,
explained what happened if you went over the ropes to the other ring.
right. Um, but that everybody and their mother was in this match, and I didn't write them down because I was into this match.
That was good. I hope
It was
if they're gonna
so
keep
good.
doing Rampage after Dynamite, which I think they probably will.
Yeah, they probably
This
will.
this should always follow Blood and Guts because they already have the two rings. They need something to do with them.
And I bet you it will
I feel
because
like this could be a
it
thing
makes
they do
perfect
every year.
sense. Yeah,
I like it. I was also really waiting because everyone get rags on JR for saying people's WWE names over
yeah,
their AEW.
yeah.
I was really waiting for him to say Royal Rumble. I was sure he maybe it's a tape show. Maybe that's why they put him on the tape show because they were sure he was going to say Royal Rumble. But I was waiting for him to say it.
That's a great point. That's funny. He was on a roll. He must have had too many White Claws on Dynamite. He was calling people.
Yeah, and
He
the
called, he
people.
called Ruby Soho Ruby Riot, and
I don't even care
Claudio
about
was
that
Cesar. No,
because
he was
I
wild.
get it. I do it too. Like I'll talk about Daniel
Yeah,
Bryan instead of like he was Daniel Bryan for 10 years. He was Claudio. He was Cesaro for 10 years,
yeah,
and especially he was in the company that Jr. worked for.
exactly. For JR was there for like 25 years.
Yeah, so I mean it makes sense. Like
Yeah,
I don't blame
of
him. I've
course.
called Daniel Bryan when I was referring to him like in recent terms,
I've done it too. I mean, everybody does.
especially
It's
him because
like,
his name is so easy. It's the same. It's the same name. It's just opposite.
yes. uh Now going back to where Brody King and Darby were the final two, and Darby was my pick to win, so I was like stoked for a minute. But Brody King won. I did not expect that. Very cool.
And the
Very
elimination was
cool.
really cool. The way he kind of just hung him out of the ring and then dropped him.
Unbelievable. Like literally held him by his throat or by
Yeah,
his neck, like in a chokehold. Brody goes on to face Mox this Wednesday for the interim title. Um, that's going to be a very interesting, violent match. Brody is he's a he's a bigger version of John Moxley. They're literally just going to beat each other up, and I
yeah,
cannot wait.
yeah. No one expects Brody King to win this, obviously. Um, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure no matter who won this match, I mean, no one expects Mox to lose his first match with the interim title. Like he's not going to lose. So why not give him someone that he hasn't wrestled before and that you don't expect to see? It'll be a good
yeah,
match,
it'll be a fantastic match.
and it could lead to a House of Blackpool Combat Club thing, which I'm all for.
I'm all about that. Just the promos in general will be
Yeah, it would be great.
unreal.
I
Um,
saw someone I forget where I saw them on Twitter or Reddit or something suggest that Brody King loses and Malachi is disappointed in him, so then like he steps up, being like, "No, watch, I can do it," and then he goes after Moxley.
oh,
I feel like that would be cool.
that would be so cool. Ah, well, um, the next segment of the night, we had Hook, and I still have no idea what the hell he said to Alex
He's.
Marvez. I'm dead serious.
I thought I understood it when he said it, but then you texted me to be like, "What did he say?" And like I couldn't repeat what he like. I didn't remember. Like it was something I don't remember. It was. I'm
all,
sure it
all
was. I'm sure it was very profound.
yes, and all I got out of it at the end, he said Marvez, and then walked away. That's the only thing I got out of it.
And this is
They
why Hook doesn't talk.
yes, or they need a better directional mic and
Right.
like to put it like in his mouth or
Right.
somehow. Like, uh, I thought it was a cool segment. Apparently, it's gonna move. Apparently, whatever Hook said, I don't know what he said. Uh, it's gonna move some sort of storyline forward. Uh, but we need Hookhausen back. I'm I'm gonna die on that hill.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, and I know that there was some rumors about some wrestlers having COVID, and that's why they weren't at the show.
Yeah.
So maybe they taped this Hook thing another time, and he wasn't there for whatever reason. I was
No, that's
surprised
true
when
too.
I was surprised that when Danhausen had mystery partners, it didn't involve Hook at all.
I know. Like I definitely thought it would have been like how cool would it have been if it was like Hook and like Will Hobbs from like Team Taz?
Yeah, yeah,
Because like
yeah,
why?
yeah. He doesn't know that like they're not really a thing anymore. And it's like,
Right.
no, you guys are a team, right? And they're like, no, we haven't talked in weeks.
Yeah, he kind of does his own thing now.
Yeah,
um, going moving right along, Bucks, the Young Bucks versus Hiroki Goto, sorry, and Yoshihashi. Uh, Different type match for the Bucks. It was a slow-paced, hard-hitting match. I was surprised to see the Bucks do this, but I liked it.
yeah. No, I liked it. The Bucks are impressing me. I mean, I think I've mentioned a lot of times that early AEW and pre AEW, my feeling on the Young Bucks was it's a lot of flippy stage stuff that looks a little too pre rehearsed.
Yeah,
But they seem like they're. I don't want to say they're getting better because they're obviously a very experienced tag team, but they're adapting to more styles now, where they're making it seem more realistic. I like what they're doing.
yeah, and oh, what right, real quick because I made a note and I didn't. Going back to the Royal Rampage match, it looks like we're gonna get Andrade and Rush versus the Lucha Brothers, and
Oh yeah, I
please
totally
let that
forgot about
happen.
that. But yeah,
Yes, please let that happen. Uh,
I just want it so like they can quickly have Excalibur explain their entire history in like 30 seconds.
well, he
He'll
kind
say
of
it. He'll
did
he'll say it really fast. And like,
right. He kind of did in the um in the battle royal
right, in like
because I was
a
like,
no
oh,
a
I
10
didn't know
a
they had
10
a
second
history.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden I cared about it. I think I even texted you. I was like,
yeah,
didn't know who that guy was, but he apparently came from AAA, and they've been fighting with the Lucha Brothers for years. So let's go. But anyways, sorry. Um, if any match had, if you would have said, hey, which match do you think is going to utilize both rings? That's not um, the battle royal. I would have said, oh,
right,
definitely the Young Bucks match.
right,
They're going to do something insane,
right.
and they did, but it wasn't until the end. I was very
Yeah,
surprised,
but the finish was cool
and
where he went like jumped off both ropes. That was cool.
it was unreal what he did. They just keep on rolling. Uh,
Yeah, whenever they have
very
that match with FTR, that's going to be huge and it's going to be incredible.
yes and yes.
That's obviously what's coming. I mean, they can't have the AEW champions and the every other champion exist and not
Now,
fight each other.
agreed. Now, again, my question for you: uh, do we get Bucks FTR at Battle of the Belts, or do you hold that out for the pay per view?
It seems like it should be a pay per view because it's such a big match. It
Yeah,
would make
I
sense to
know.
have it on pay per view. But I think I said last week, like the tagline "Battle of the Belts." I mean, they have all these belts and they're battling, so
Yes.
they could throw that in there too, and it would. I mean, that would sell the show. The Battle of Belts shows haven't been. I mean, the knock on them is they're not that big. They're not as big of a deal as they could be.
Yeah.
So having that be basically that could be the only match. I mean, it's only an hour show. Um, I don't know what they do. What do you think?
I, see, I'm torn because I think all belts have to be on the line too. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
uh,
The winner
you
has to
know,
have like four. The winner has to have four titles at the end.
yes, yeah. So to me, that would equal pay per view, but
Yeah.
at the same time, going piggybacking off what you said, I think they also need to hype up Battle of the Belts and
Mm-hmm.
give us something special
Yeah.
because, like, I don't want to say they have been lackluster, but I mean, they've been very entertaining, but not that many titles change hands on Battle of the Belts because they're
Right.
holding off for pay per views. So, uh,
Yeah, it's hard to say.
it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't type stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm gonna go with, just to play devil's advocate, I hope they do it at Battle of the Belts just to make Battle of the Belts special.
Yeah,
That's
and that would
what.
make it. I mean, like I said, that could be the only match, or they could have one other match
Yeah,
and
that
have
let it.
have the Bucks and FTR go like half an hour or 40 minutes, and like they could do that. They could do like a 2 out of 3
Ooh,
falls thing if they wanted to, like go nuts.
oh, something like that, or even do like a Battle of the Belts, but make it on Dynamite and give it a full 2 hour.
Yeah.
Like make it a special Dynamite. That would be. Hey, I'm okay with that. Now moving on. We had the main event. Uh, Nyla Rose with Marina Shafir in her corner, which I really like that tag team now, or
Hmm.
friendship, whatever it is, versus Tony Storm. And I'm just going to go off on a little rant here. This is where I felt bad for these girls because these ladies put on a hell of a match and they literally beat the hell out of each other. But like I said earlier, like a quarter to half of the crowd left, and they didn't
Yeah.
get it in front of a full house.
Yeah.
That's and it's nobody's fault. Like I
No,
said,
it's
it's a
nobody's fault, and I
marathon when
meant,
you're there.
and it's nice that they put them, and it's deserving that they put them in the main event. I mean, it wasn't like a. I mean, you can kind of say Rampage does this sometime. They do the old Saturday night's main event thing where
Mm-hmm.
the top match is first, and then they kind of go backwards through the card.
Yeah, everybody definitely thought the Battle Royal was going to be the main event, myself
Right.
included.
So I get that you could say, oh, they had them in the the worst spot on the card, but I mean, it wasn't really. It is the main event of the show. It
Yeah,
matters. So yeah, it's too bad that
and
they. And I don't blame the crowd either because you're right. It's a 4 hour show at that point. So
yeah, and um, I mean, it's still, you get to watch it on TV, and I think that's why a lot of people leave.
right,
Like,
it's not like it's on live and you're missing it if you
yeah,
leave.
like
Yeah,
if you go home, you're like, oh, okay, I left after this match, so I don't know what's happening next. Like,
right.
just watch it. But early on in the match, Marina Shafir kind of teased that she was going to interfere in the match. I thought it was cool because you don't see that. Like they had like her and Tony had like the little stare down, and you're like, oh, okay, well
Right,
Tony's going to turn her back and she's going to jump her. She
right.
didn't. It was done so well. It's planting the seeds for what's going to happen.
Yeah, Marina Shafir is another person who's getting. I don't want to credit all of this to Brian Danielson or William Regal, even though I know that they're both working with the women's division,
Mm-hmm.
because the women themselves are obviously doing the work because they're getting
Right,
better.
right.
I mean, they're not magically getting better; they're working at it. But Marina Shafir is someone like, I don't want to put her on Jade's level because I don't think anyone's really on Jade's level, but she's improving a lot and pretty quickly. I mean, I feel like she doesn't have very much wrestling experience, so
No,
the
she
fact that
she
the
doesn't.
fact that she's getting better every week is a good thing.
Yeah, and talk about getting better every week. I put this in the notes. I personally think this was by far the best Nyla Rose match ever, at least that
Yeah,
I've ever
definitely.
seen.
Yeah, because a lot of Nyla Rose matches are like, it's hard to work with Nyla Rose, especially because I mean the women's division is different now. When Nyla Rose was first,
Right,
the early AEW, everyone was so much smaller than her that she was facing.
right,
So it's
right.
hard to have a match other than she's big and is going to use power moves, and the other person's going to be fast. Like that was every match she had because
Yeah,
what else are you going to do when she's facing like Riho?
and
And
that's what I was just going to
that's
reference.
not a knock on Riho, but it just
Right,
that's the match you have when you have someone who's Riho size and someone who's Nyla Rosa size. You have the smaller, faster person jump around, and you have the bigger person try to destroy them. That's how that match works.
yeah,
So it's, I mean, I'm not saying Toni Storm is massive. She's not the
right.
size of an Nyla Rose, but she can do other moves other than just flip around and get batted out of the air.
Correct. And
And I'm not trying to make a knock on Riho or anyone else. It just,
no, no, I totally get what you're saying
that's the
because
way the
I'm
style
right
of
there
match
with
works.
you.
I mean, same
Yeah,
thing if you did, Marco Stunt versus Keith Lee.
Keith
I mean,
Lee. Yeah,
you're not doing a technical match. You're gonna have him get thrown around the ring and smashed. That's what you're gonna do. That's the way the match is gonna work.
right. And to see, and again, going back, these ladies are putting the time in with uh, uh, Danielson and Regal too. So
Yeah,
everybody's getting better.
yeah.
And Tony Storm, clean win. I thought, I didn't think it was going to be clean win at all, and that
No,
was, I liked that.
And Toni Storm is someone who I didn't really see her in. I know she was in WWE, but I didn't really watch her wrestle. She's better than I thought she would be.
Oh yeah. I knew. I mean, I knew her name.
I heard a lot of good stuff about her. Like when she left, it was a big deal.
Yes,
but I didn't know if it was a big deal just because somebody basically walked out, or if it was a big deal because she's actually really good, and she's actually really good.
What guts that takes?
Yeah, the fact that she was just like, I don't want to be here. I'm not going to be here. And just like, yeah.
Yep, I'm done.
Yeah.
Send me my check. Well, she gets the clean win, and then Marina Shafir jumps Toni Storm after the match. And of course, Thunder Rosa makes the save. We get the stare down. And then we found out we get, and we're staying on brand. We're gonna get Toni Rosa versus Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir on Dynamite.
That's right. I mean, some people want to call them some weird name of Thunderstorm, which doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Why would you?
Why when you have Toni Rosa sitting? You have Toni Rosa sitting right there.
Right.
Why
there.
would you do anything else?
It's funny. Every time you say that it just reminds me of like an 80s NHL fourth liner. Like, Toni Rose, that dude had a hell of a shot, huh?
Yeah.
Like, that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably play for the Rangers. It goes through my head. This Wednesday card, I mean, we don't even know what it all is yet, and it's
right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, you already have Mox against Brody King. You already have the street fight with Wardlow and Scorpio Sky. Like, then that's just a regular Dynamite.
Yeah, that's 3 matches right there. We usually get around 4 or 5.
Yeah, depends on the show, but yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we already know 3. Wow, what a week! And we say that every week, but
yeah, definitely.
It keeps delivering, and that's the difference. This is what people like, newer people or WWE people don't understand. This is what WWF used to be like.
Right.
And we talk about it all the time. Like, you'd go into school and you would talk to your friends about it, and like, oh my God, did you see this? Da 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 da. Could you believe this happened? And here we are, 20 years later, doing this with a new company, and
and I feel like if you don't like AEW because you don't like their wrestlers, or you don't like how the shows are, that's fine. Like, obviously it's fine. I totally nobody likes everything. I'm sure there's people who don't like pizza, as bizarre as that might be.
That's weird.
But you can't say that they're not putting in a solid alternative to WWE. Like, it's different enough. It's familiar. Like, it feels like something that older fans would know, but it's not just a retread. It's not the Attitude Era. It's its own thing.
Yeah, it's its own thing. Yeah.
They're clearly a solid alternative to what wrestling has been for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. It's good to see.
And the boundaries that they're breaking, like, they're working with other companies. Like, that's the most unheard of thing, like, ever.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to just sit here and gush about it, but I mean, especially Dynamite. Dynamite was an outstanding show. Like, that was just free.
Yes,
like, you could just just watch that for free.
Yeah.
If you have cable, obviously, but yeah.
Or the internet.
Or the internet.
I mean,
that's right.
There's ways.
That's right. But yeah, great show. Great week of AEW.
Yeah, and
it looks like the next one's going to be. I mean, at least Dynamite seems insane.
It's gonna be off the rails. And like I said earlier, we're recording this a day early because tomorrow, if you're in the States, is the 4th of July. So I will be celebrating with family and drinking. So I would not be in any. I'd be home in time, but I would not be in any shape to be talking.
You'd just be like full of freedom and opportunity and all those things.
And alcohol.
Yes.
And I'd talk about going off on tangents. I'd be like, "Man, my neighbor cut his grass again." Wow, like I'd be that guy.
Just be talking about like barbecues.
Yeah, and then fireworks. We were blowing stuff up all day. Uh, but yeah, it was a fun week. It's going to be a fun week, and I, there's really not much more to talk about. Rick, do you have any closing statements? Do you want to talk about Christian again, or?
No, I think I've talked about Christian a lot. I really, not to talk about Christian more, but I really do like that he's getting a chance to do a thing. I really like it.
I agree. It's when you brought it up that uh, he was always kind of, or not kind of, he was always in Edge's shadow. He was in
Right.
WWF, WWE.
And that wasn't
He
even
was
a
the
shot
guy.
at WWF
No,
or WWE. I mean,
no,
Edge is a star. I mean,
right,
most people beside Edge is going to be not Edge, right? So I
right.
get it, but
And I mean, Christian wasn't going to complain. He got to be a millionaire and travel the
right,
world with his best friend, like
right. But
like his real life best friend.
He's clearly showing that he's far from the Marty Jannetty of the team. He's
Yes,
on his own. He's his, and that's what he wanted. I mean, that's why he left WWE whenever he left to go to TNA.
See,
He
I
wanted
wish
to
I
show.
watched that. Oh.
Yeah, I didn't really watch most of it. I saw a little bit of it. But the reason he left was because he wanted that. He wanted to show that, like, yes, I'm in a good tag team, and Edge is obviously a good friend, and we're a good team, but I can do my own stuff too. And he's right, and he can. So good for him.
Yeah. So,
and that's why it's great that AEW exists, because you could do that
on a level that's equivalent on national television with a budget that is equivalent. Like
and it works the other way too. I mean, someone like not to mention Cody again, but someone like Cody, he was unhappy with the way things were happening for him in AEW, and he wanted to play a certain character and be the top babyface guy, and it wasn't working, and so he could go somewhere else.
Because the fans care in AEW, and they knew that's not what they wanted. And he was trying to force it, just wasn't happening.
It's odd that he forced it, but we'll get into that another day.
Yeah, it's another day. But on that note, we're going to close up shop.
Happy freedom and 4th of July to you and everybody else who's there in the land of freedom and hot dogs. That's the hot dog thing tomorrow, right? Where they eat all the hot dogs?
Yeah.
Oh,
what's that guy's name? He's like the champion of the eaters.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
100 pounds. It makes no sense to me.
But he eats some ludicrous number of hot dogs.
Yeah, and like
in like 5 minutes or something. Yeah, it's horrible.
It's so gross, but that's America.
There you go. Well, enjoy your 4th of July.
I will. Thank you, and happy belated Canada Day, by the way.
Thank you. I believe it was also Bret Hart's birthday, which should be as big of a deal as in Canada as Canada Day.
It's on Canada Day, isn't it?
I don't know if it's on Canada Day or the next day.
Well, his birthday was yesterday. Which day was Canada Day?
It's July 2nd. Canada Day is July 1st. So there you go. 2 holidays in a row.
See, Bret Hart knew.
Canada Day and Bret Hart's birthday.
All right. So on that note, again, as always, thank you to everybody for listening. Again, another week, more people coming into the community. Like, subscribe, follow at Elite City Pod on Twitter. I say this every week. I'm going to get better at logging into that account. I wrote it down this week, so I have all the information. That I took it off my phone and put it in my notes.
I do forget the password every so often, but I saved it on my computer now, so it's there.
So yeah, I'm going to get on that. But thank you to everybody. This is fun, and we're going to keep doing it. And you're growing. Come say hi. Tell us what to talk about. Tell us what you like or don't like, and we'll go from there. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Elite City Podcast. And this was another week that was AEW. Till next time, later.